Welcome to Herself, a space for women to have deep conversations about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential, so you can become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. After being in business for over 2 decades, I've learned, as you likely have too, that as you grow your business grows you in unexpected, often challenging, yet miraculous ways. Here, we'll talk about how to get out of your own way so you can grow a business that's abundant and sustainable while allowing you to be a force for good in the world. I'll give you simple, actionable strategies as well as wisdom and inspiration to help you root into your wholeness, lead from your values, and work in ways that feel deeply aligned so you can bring your true self into the world through your business and in every area of your life. Several years ago, I was preparing to lead a retreat, and I knew I had some lesson plans from a previous retreat I taught that was similar. They were extensive because when I create these lessons plans, they're very in depth, day by day, session by session. I had really detailed notes and even debriefing notes at the end, because after a retreat, I go through and I just note like what worked well, what didn't, what are things I would shift next time. So I sat down to prep for this new retreat, and I went looking in my digital files for those old lesson plans, and I could not for the life of me find where I put them. And I just, okay, are they in Dropbox? Are they in Google Drive? Are they somewhere on my desktop? Are they, I don't know. I was hunting. And I just asked, did I even name the file? What was the name? I searched all kinds of places. I tried every file name variation I could think of, and I just could not find these. And it was frustrating. I spent a lot of time looking for them, and I didn't find them. So I just had to completely start over from scratch. And I thought, well, what a waste of time and energy, and what a loss of all that accumulated wisdom that I'd captured from the previous retreat. So that was kind of a wake-up call for me. And when I rebuilt and restructured my business in 2020, 2021, I also set out to organize things in a completely different way, and actually just to really organize them, just fundamentally organize them well with clear file names, designated homes for everything. So now I know what kind of files are in Dropbox, what kind of files are in Google Drive, what do I keep on my desktop, how do I name things so that I don't need to spend time hunting for things. I can just actually know where to find them, and my team can know where to find things too. And one of the things that I hear a lot from the women in my program and the women that I mentor privately is they need help with even just digital organization and these basic backend systems. And, maybe your desktop is covered in files with names like client notes final version 3 and workshop outline, do not delete. And maybe your Zoom account is overflowing with recordings that you keep meaning to organize or just to delete. And then every time you onboard a new client, it just feels like you're starting from scratch and just scrambling to remember what forms you sent last time, what your process actually is. Maybe it's a little bit different for each client. Maybe you have multiple scheduling systems and client files scattered across platforms, and you're still manually invoicing people because you haven't had time to set up that automated system that you bought all those months ago. And you're juggling systems that don't fully work, and just trying to find a schedule that makes sense for your energy. And here's the thing that I really want to emphasize today that I don't hear a lot of people talking about is that you're amazing at what you do, and you may feel like you're failing or you're lacking at the business part. And so if you have ever felt split between feeling really masterful in your craft, but feeling completely overwhelmed by everything in the back end of your business or your private practice, this episode will give you some much needed perspective and hopefully also a clear path forward. So let us start by just naming what's really happening here. And that is that there is a fundamental split between 2 different skill sets happening here. One is you are an incredible practitioner, and one is the skill set of being an effective CEO. And I know this about you. You have invested years, maybe even decades in mastering your craft. You have done the trainings, you have gotten the certifications, you have studied with the teachers, you have honed your skills. You know your craft inside and out. And when you are with a client, you are in your zone of genius. And then there's this whole other side of things, of running the business of offering your craft, which includes the systems, the processes, the backend operations, the strategic thinking. And most of us, we never learned those skills. Most of us did not go to get our MBAs. And to be honest, I don't think any of us actually went into business because we wanted to run a business. I know that I didn't. We got into business because we wanted to offer our craft, because we're passionate about that thing that we do, that service that we offer. So then here's the conundrum. Here's what happens is we're high integrity practitioners where we've over invested in our mastery. We've under invested in the structure through which we offer our mastery. And you will spend thousands of dollars on another certification, but you will not invest in a CRM system, or maybe you don't even know what a CRM system is, or you'll travel across the country for a workshop, but you will not hire someone to help you organize your files. And so why does this happen? Why are we doing this? Because, most business advice, it is one size fits all, and it doesn't honor the nuance, the emotion, or the soul of how sensitive people like us actually work. And so we can feel repulsed or repelled by the business world. And, traditional business systems, they were designed by and for a very different type of entrepreneur, usually male, usually someone who's more linear, more willing to push through regardless of how it feels. And that approach just doesn't work for us who are healers, who are coaches, who are creative, who are more heart-centered practitioners and business owners. And, you may even cringe at the idea of calling yourself an entrepreneur or a business owner. You do not want to identify as that. You identify as being the practitioner of your craft first and foremost. So then what happens is you are incredibly competent in what you offer, but then you feel scattered and overwhelmed when it comes to the other things needed to kind of keep your operations afloat. And this is not a character flaw. This is not evidence that you are not cut out for business. This is simply the result of you trying to force your sensitive or intuitive way of being into systems that maybe weren't designed for you, or maybe that you never really learned how to use in a way that works for you. Because the truth is, and I'm always a fan of the both and approach. If you've been here before, maybe that's getting ingrained in you. I feel like that's really the most skillful approach to life. It's not black and white. And so the truth is, we need both of these sides. You do need to be masterful in your craft, and you need to be supported by structures that actually work for how you operate. So one without the other leads to either burnout or eventually business failure, or just being very ineffective in business. And, here's what I want you to know, like those tidy websites and those well mapped out workflows, I do have those now, but that was not always the case. I assure you, I haven't been in business now for over 2 decades, and I have experienced the chaos firsthand of not having those things. And I know that for myself, when I do have those in place now, it makes a world of a difference for me, for my business, for those that I serve. And it's been a journey. It's been a process to put those in place. So I also want to talk about, something that you may be carrying, but not necessarily speaking about, or maybe not even necessarily aware of, is that you might feel some shame around this chaos happening in the background. It's like that episode in Friends with, Monica is very fastidious about keeping things tidy. And then she has this one closet that just is a complete chaotic mess. And, you may feel like certain parts of your business are like that scary closet that if you open it, everything's just going to come tumbling out. And then you look around and you see other entrepreneurs with like these color-coded calendars and their seamless systems and their perfectly organized digital lives. And, you think, well, what's wrong with me that I can't seem to get my act together? And so just even knowing that intellectually that, many women carry this quiet shame about being scattered or disorganized, and that then you might avoid showing people the back end of your business. You might make excuses when people ask about your process, or you might even avoid taking on certain opportunities because you're embarrassed about your systems. And then that shame creates a vicious cycle. It can lead to paralysis, so you don't even know where to start. And then, you might slip into some imposter syndrome, thinking like, well, real business owners have this figured out. This is just a hobby. And then that can lead to avoidance and just focusing on the parts of your business that feel good and ignoring more of the operational, the financial stuff that can feel overwhelming. Yeah, it's exhausting. And I want to normalize that, chaos, it's not bad. It's actually often a sign that you're outgrowing something and you're ready for the next level. And that was true for me. It's like when I was restructuring my business, I had outgrown what I had built before. And I realized, like, okay, to go to the next level, I need to build something different. It needs to be more organized. So think about it. Like if you started your business, say 3 years ago, and you had one offer and 5 clients, and now maybe you have multiple offers and dozens of clients, of course, your original systems are going to feel stretched thin because you have grown, but your infrastructure has not kept pace. And the mess is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you are actually successful. You're successful enough to need to create better systems. And here's another truth, that some level of messiness is actually normal for creative, intuitive people. You will likely never have a business that looks like a Fortune 500 company's operations manual. And that's okay. Okay. Mine will never look like that. Mine are organized, but they're not that organized. So the goal isn't perfection, it's functionality that supports your unique way of working. So then what is the alternative? How do you create systems that actually work for sensitive, soulful, mission-driven practitioners and creatives? And this is where I want to introduce you to, or maybe remind you of, the concept of more of a feminine structure, a structure that's flexible, that's seasonal, that's values aligned rather than rigid and one size fits all. Because again, traditional business structure is very masculine in nature. It was created by men for men. And it says, like, this is the system, you must adapt to it. Whereas feminine structure says, okay, let's create a system that adapts to you. And let's look at what this might look like in practice. So instead of scheduling back-to-back client calls because that feels efficient, you build in some buffer time between sessions to take some space, to drink some water, to stand up, to ground yourself. Instead of trying to post on social media every day, because that's what the marketing gurus say, you create your content in batches when you know that you'll feel inspired, and then you schedule it out maybe for 3 days a week instead of 7 days a week. And instead of forcing yourself to do admin work when you're in a creative flow, maybe you designate certain times of the day, like the end of the day, when you don't need as much brain power to do that type of thing. So feminine structure includes body awareness. It recognizes that your capacity changes based on your hormonal cycle, the season, what's happening in your personal life. And it builds in flexibility rather than demanding that you show up the same way every single day, no matter what. So it's cyclical. That's the word I'm trying to find. Cyclical rather than linear. So instead of trying to grow constantly, it really honors these just natural seasons of our womanhood, where some seasons are expansive and some are seasons of integration. It honors, sometimes we feel like being more public, and sometimes we need to be more private. Sometimes we need to slow down, and sometimes we need to go deeper, not faster. So fundamentally, it's values aligned. And really, instead of optimizing for maximum efficiency or maximum profit, and efficiency and profit are important, but they're not the end all be all. It's really about optimizing for sustainability. How can we do this well over the long run? How can this provide meaning for us and those we serve? And how can this truly make an impact in the world? So structure is not about being rigid. It's really about creating more flow and ease and momentum for your magic. Just like if I had had a better filing system for those retreat plans all those years ago, it would have been easier for me just to dive right in and find my flow with that new retreat. Because when you have the right systems in place, they really do free you up to do your best work rather than boxing you in and constraining you. And really good structure feels like having a beautiful, organized home. That's something that's really important to me. Even now when I'm just moved to France and we're living in Airbnbs, like I still like to keep it organized and tidy and know where everything is, because this supports your daily rhythms and it just feels more like a sanctuary. So really, the goal is not to eliminate all chaos, because creative messiness, it is part of the process for sure. But really the goal is to create enough order that the chaos feels generative rather than overwhelming or paralyzing. And then, here's something that most business advice really misses. And that is that the outer chaos in your business often mirrors inner fragmentation. And IFS, we talk about this a lot. Like as we heal things within, things in our external life will also heal and shift, and vice versa. So if you're constantly scattered, like you're jumping from task to task, not completing things, that's not just a time management issue. It's also a sign that different parts within you are pulling you in different directions. And maybe they have competing agendas. So there could be a part of you that wants to grow and expand, another part that's afraid of being seen, a part that wants to charge higher prices, another part that feels guilty for asking for money, a part that craves structure, that's wanting more structure, another part that rebels against that because it finds it too confining. So when these internal conflicts aren't addressed, in IFS we call them polarizations, they do show up as external chaos. And you may create systems and then you sabotage them. Or you may set boundaries and then you ignore them. Or you may make plans and then you abandon them. And, this is why internal family systems work, and seasonal rhythms, and really tuning into your body's needs and your values are so important for our business growth. Because you cannot create lasting outer change without addressing what's happening internally and healing your relationship to leadership, the leadership that either is or is not happening within you. It is the most overlooked business strategy, because most of us learn that leadership, it's more of the patriarchal form of leadership, of like pushing through, ignoring our needs, overriding, forcing outcomes. But really, if we're to be honest with ourselves, it's that kind of leadership that creates chaos in the first place, right? So true leadership, what we call here, what IFS calls self-leadership, means leading from your center, honoring your capacity, honoring all of your parts' needs, making decisions from your whole self, from your entirety, rather than from parts that are reactive or scared. And when you do this inner work alongside the outer systems work, something really magical happens. And that is, hallelujah, the structures you create actually stick because they are aligned with who you really are. The boundaries you set feel sustainable because they are coming from self-respect, not shoulds or not self-punishment. And you start making decisions from clarity rather than overwhelm. You stop creating more work for yourself, and you do start creating more ease. And you begin to trust yourself to hold the container for your business instead of feeling like you're constantly at the mercy of forces beyond your control, just kind of doggy paddling to stay afloat. So this integration, this inner leadership with outer systems, is exactly what creates a business that feels like a sacred, sustainable home for your work rather than a chaotic energy drain. And when your business becomes a reflection of your most integrated self, that's when you can truly serve at the highest level that you are meant to serve. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're up to? That's what I'm up to, right? So if you're listening to this and you are recognizing yourself, like if you are feeling tired of being masterful in your sessions or your client work, but maybe scattered in other places of your business, you're not in the wrong place. You're not behind. You are just under-resourced, and that's okay. It happens to all of us. And maybe you've been trying to build a business without actually knowing how to do that fully, or not having the tools and the strategies to work for you, and not really understand how to put them together in ways that really serve and support your mission. And, the solution is not to force yourself into someone else's system. It's really to create those systems or sculpt them around your values, your sensitivity, your cyclical nature as a woman. And that also just inherently will support your outer growth too. So if you want to go more deeply into this with me, I am hosting a free workshop, and it is coming up this coming week. It's called The Sovereign Shift: How to Stop Overgiving, Start Leading, and Build a Business that Truly Serves. And this is for visionary women who are feeling the call to do something a little bit differently. And this is not about doing more. It's about finally landing in what works for you, creating a business that feels like a sacred container for your gifts, for your true calling, rather than a source of stress and overwhelm. So if you're ready to stop feeling like you're failing at the business part and start creating systems that really support your magic, so you can really integrate the back end of the system, the back end of your business with the front end of the service that you're offering, this workshop is the best place to start doing that. And you can save your seat at sarahavaughtstover.com/shift. That's sarahavaughtstover.com/shift. The link is in the show notes. And here's what I know to be true. You do not have to choose between being a masterful practitioner and being an effective CEO. You can be both. And it does require a different approach, one that honors all of you. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this thought. Take a breath with me so we can really, really invite this in, because this is important. The way you organize your business is actually a reflection of how much you value your own time, your own energy, and your own gifts. When you are constantly scrambling to find files, starting from scratch every time, using systems that don't fit, or not using systems at all, you are essentially telling yourself that your time is not worth protecting, that your energy is not worth preserving. But when you invest in creating structure that supports you, you are making a powerful statement. You are saying, my work matters. My time is valuable. I deserve systems that help me thrive, not just to survive. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about having everything figured out. It's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that the quality of your internal experience directly impacts the quality of what you can offer others. Because you wouldn't ask your clients to heal in a chaotic, disorganized environment, right? So why are you asking yourself to create from that place? And the path forward is not about becoming someone that you're not. It's not about, creating a business that just doesn't feel like you. It's about creating a business infrastructure that honors exactly who you are, your sensitivity, your rhythms, your way of working, while supporting you to serve at your absolute highest level, whatever that looks like on any given day. And just because you have not been able to do that yet does not mean that you're not capable of it. It just means that you haven't had the right support to create those systems. And if I can do it, you can do it too. It's not as hard as you think, okay? So thank you for being here today. Remember, you are not failing at business. If the back end is challenging for you, it just means that maybe you're not using the right tools, you're not using them in the right way yet, and that is completely fixable. All right, my dear, I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, change doesn't come from listening alone. I invite you to commit to taking one small or large, courageous action after today's conversation. One step you can take, if you haven't already, is to sign up for my Sunday journal. It's a weekly newsletter filled with inspiration and reflections about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential to help you become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. You can subscribe at programs-sarahavaughnstover.com/journal. And if you found this podcast valuable, please share it with the women in your world. Also, I'd be very grateful if you'd leave a review. It helps others find resources like this, and I'd love to hear what's coming alive for you after listening today. Above all, keep going, and never forget the unique offerings you and your true self bring to the world. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support.